Hello everybody and welcome back to Hive Prometheus. I wanted to go ahead today and do another matchup dependent kind of cliff note like video. Today I wanted to go over some of the games I've had with Necrons. They're the faction that I've played the most this edition. One of my main sparring partners here plays Necrons, so I end up playing them about once or twice a week over the first 2 months of play. And I end up having quite a few for Necrons that were pretty good to go back and review. Before I get too far into the video, I just want to go ahead and say thank you to everybody who is subscribing and liking the videos. I started this as a side project just as a service to others to help people learn the game, enjoy the game, get better at the game, grow the community, and that really is my goal here. So I really appreciate those who have subscribed in the last few weeks. I uploaded a couple videos and lo and behold, I checked back and my subscribers have doubled. So again, thank you for your support. Even if it is just your attention and your time, I really do appreciate you. I just want to jump over to some of the photos here and I can run you through sort of the list idea I was running. I was also running different detachments. In these pictures here, I'll be showing here, I ran Invasion, Vanguard, and Synaptic Nexus lists. So I'll try to be careful about what I ran and if I was running more of a fun experimental list or more of a competitive list. So the first picture I'm showing here, I believe, was my third game of the edition. The first was against Eldar, the second was against Necrons, and that was a loss, and this one, I believe, was a win. I was starting to retune my list up to something that I would consider more of a invasion fleet style standard. I had 2 Exocrines. I had some warriors. I think these were shooting warriors. At that point, you could still see multiple spore mines, so I had 2 Biovores. I had my Hive Tyrant with a 3 Tyrant Guard. Oh, actually, I was running 9 zone throw up, so I must have had 6 here and 3 here. I had 2 Lictors flanking on the sides here to go ahead and snipe out characters. The terrain setup here was not player placed. I believe the opponent set this up and I just rolled with it. I'm still trying to get my reps in to learn the army at this point. In my opinion, it takes about 10 games with a faction to kind of drill down and get the gist of the unit synergies, the stratagems, and the timings that you need against specific opponents. I only ended up taking 1 photo of this game, but this was a win. I found out very quickly that if you wanted to take out these warrior blocks, that you need to focus essentially your entire army 1 or 2 turns to get them off of this objective. I was able to shift over and take them off of this objective. I think this was supply drop. As you can see, there is no middle objective. So I think that the first objective to clear was this one here, and the second to clear was the one far out here. Moving on to the next picture here, this was the same opponent, just on a different weekend. I was running more of an experimentalist. I wanted to throw in some Legends units, so I did throw in a Dimacron just to kind of see his performance at the point value. 240 points for him actually ends up being pretty good. His ability to move 12 inches, he's toughness 10, he's pretty tough, and he's able to heal. So this, I would say, would not be a more competitive list. I was starting to take the Rupture Cannon, and the Rupture Cannon actually, even at its old points of 200, was doing very well. As long as I was able to thread them through the 4-up invuln of Necron vehicles. That is the one thing that you're going to come against a lot against Necrons is lots of invulns, relatively high toughness, 5, 6, and 7 you'll see, and then their vehicles, I believe, for T8 and T9. The thing that you'll be contending most with now that I've heard is Wraiths, so it may not be the Scorpack Destroyers with the Crab Daddy, as we call him. He put Sempiternal Weave on the Crab Daddy to give him the 4-up Feel No Pain, which made him extremely tough. But essentially, if I was able to get a cheeky angle on the Destroyers here, I could take out the squad with all of the 3 damage shooting from the 2 Exocrines and the Maleceptor, as long as I was able to proc symbiotic targeting to reroll 1s with the first Exocrine. I did have some melee warriors back here as a sort of vanguard to protect against the destroyers if in the case they did get first charged into my Dimacron. They didn't end up getting that. I got first turn. I was able to sweep up to that objective, take out everybody. The Crab Daddy was able to sweep around and did end up taking my backfield objective, so he did get capture enemy outpost when he drew that card. However, at that point I had essentially been able to move up and sweep the entirety of the board. I was slowly starting to figure out that against Necrons, you definitely have to focus fire much more than other armies. One thing I learned in 9th edition is there's no such thing as overkill. That still definitely is a precedent here in 10th edition, especially with the relatively anemic amount of damage that we can do. Moving on, this is same sparring partner. So he's starting to bring the Silent King now. He's still got those 2 Doomsday Walkers and a Doomsday Arc. He's still got the Destroyers and Crab Daddy, and he's got 2 blocks of Warriors. trying to flank. At this point, I know that at least one side of the board I can use gargoyles to either move block or to objective steal. I had another squad of gargoyles in reserve here. I'm just using the Neuro Tyrant in the back here to screen out the edge of my deployment zone so that if he does try to use the Veil of Darkness to teleport a unit, he doesn't go into the back and nuke her in one shot. Exocrines doing Exocrine things, Maleceptors trying to move up the middle, get that -1. So at this point, I'm drilling down more so to the units that are more effective. I no longer am running 9 Zoanthropes, still bringing some Lictors and some Neuro Lictors, as now at this point I think we had the released rules for that. I just had not bought the Codex yet. This game, I did not run Invasion, actually. I was running Synaptic Nexus, and I wanted to go ahead and run double Norn Assimilator. So I've got 2 Exocrines, 2 Maleceptors, big old block of 6 Zoanthropes. I found out that if I use 2x3 against most targets, I'm just going to end up splitting them and doing anemic damage, and it's probably better at that point that I have them either to use Blast on the infantry, or if I need to single out one of the vehicles in the middle, I could move them 5 inches, kind of towing out to see on one of these ruins. For the Norn Assimilators, I did not choose a singular target. What I ended up doing is I declared a singular target objective on the right here and a singular target objective on the left here. I was able to go out on turns 3 and 4, take out units, and on turns 5, on the bottom of turn 5, I could tow them back in, have OC-15, and at that point, if he wanted to come and take the objective from me, he would need more than OC-15. I think he was only able to, on his turn, to claim 2 objectives for a max of 10 primary, whereas I got the full 15. I do think that if you're going to use Norn Assimilators in Synaptic Nexus or Crusher Stampede or maybe Vanguard Assault or Vanguard Invader, I think that you do need to do something like this. I think you need to declare a singular purpose objective that you're eventually going to end on, assuming you live. You're going to go out and you're going to try to chew things up about 8 to 12 inches away, and then on your last turn you can make it an easy movement with an advance back to your objective. And if you're on the bottom of turn 5, you don't need to worry about it. You just need to worry about living to tell the tale at the bottom of turn 5. This game I'm still playing Synaptic Nexus. This time I'm not taking 2 Assimilators. I'm taking 1 Norn Emissary. I declared my singular purpose target right here behind this building. So I've got my 5 Feel No Pain. He was able to thread shots around these buildings to kind of shoot my tail, but that's okay. I had 3 squads of 3 Zoanthropes just so that I had multiple targets that I could use Irresistible Will on to get that aura so that I could reroll 1s to hit and wound. It ended up being very good. I was pretty impressed with Synaptic Nexus in the first few games that I played. I definitely enjoyed bringing Zoanthropes in Synaptic Nexus at this time. At this point, with their points being at 110 for 3, I probably would only take them if they went back down to 100 or 90 points for 3. Seeing as their damage is a bit anemic, it is roughly the same average as a Tyranid effects with the Rupture Cannon at 190, and the Rupture effects is T12 compared to T5. Sure, he doesn't have a 4-up invuln, but if you have him in cover, he's essentially going to take 4-ups against AP3. The one thing that I also learned against Necrons is there are things that you can single out and you can kill. Like I said, I've never killed the Silent King. I can't remember if he's T10 or T11, but it got to a point with what was left on the board for me, I was not able to focus fire and bring him down ever. So I chose that it was probably better to focus fire at other units that would hold points and have higher OC than he does. So as long as I could have 3 or 4 objectives on this type of map that I had more OC than OC8, or I could move block him even though he flies, I could essentially just make it so that he couldn't fit his base certain places. Pushing up, taking advantage, he towed into this objective. He was originally trying to make a cheeky charge into my Norn Emissary, but I made it so that he would have to make a long bomb charge around the building because of his base size. It would have been a 10 or 11 on the last turn, and he did not end up doing it. Alright, so this is against a different Necron player. I believe I'm playing Invasion. This was the list that I proxied triple Maleceptor and triple Exocrine. I think it ended up being pretty good. I started my gargoyles over here so that I can make a large move to an objective over here. I tried to position the majority of my Maleceptors within 26 inches of where I thought that the Doomsday Arc, or maybe this was the Tomb Arc, the transport, can make a movement here. And I did have the Tyrant, so if I needed to, I could make a normal move or an advance in this area, and I could have all the Maleceptors put all of their shots into him. I did also make it so that one of my Exocrin's guns was able to see and touch out, so that I could proc symbiotic targeting, whereas these two down here could probably move and shoot anything that was coming up the middle. It ended up being this other Doomsday Arc. So on turn 1, I was able to put a good amount of damage on the Doomsday Arc here, and I believe I was able to delete this transport up here. The infantry popped out, I out-OC'd, they charged my gargoyles, and then my Death Leaper came in to support on the objective here. Long board deployments are pretty tough for Tyranids because a lot of our ranges are in the 18 to 36 inch range. It's 18 for Maleceptors and it's 36 for Exocrines. So from the starting position that I have here, from the starting position that I have the majority of my units blocked up back here, even if I moved and was able to shoot out, I think this is the maximum range that I have for the majority of my shooting. The only exception, of course, being the Tyrannifex, which I think at this point I either moved out here so that I had shots down the middle, or I could move onto the objective here, use his OC5, and I would have multiple lanes of fire like this. I did end up using my gargoyles to jump onto this objective here, and I was able to use some Neurolictors that were in here to run up and stage for these bikes that were going to come to the objective. This game was against a different Necrons opponent. This is just the picture after. This game I actually did end up losing. I found out very quickly how tough Immortals were compared to Necron Warriors. I didn't bring in a firepower this time, and I started to figure out that using this squad of Tyrant Guard to go with the Hive Tyrant is just not worth the points, because if he's effectively going to just bubble up and babysit all the shooting bugs, he doesn't need ablative wounds. He is a small enough base that he can hide by himself. The Silent King got to the middle. He had OC8. There wasn't really much I could do to get him off. I mean, especially with his 4-up invuln, he was just too tough for this list. First of all, I probably needed more terrain here just so that I had options. Here I am full sending, trying to push my advantage. I advanced my Tyrant and the Tyrant Guard around the corner here, and I was trying to devote them as much as I could to this objective, knowing that for one turn I could out-OC the Silent King, but he was going to kill my gargoyles, and I tried to send my 2-squad of Raveners deep striking in to get at least one charge into this objective here. This was my Hail Mary turn, and as good as my staging looks here, I do believe I ended up losing this game by about 5 to 10. In this game, I did end up having a Scythe Hyrule. I rapid ingressed him, and then was able to move in and try to attack the Immortals. I was able to do an okay amount of hits and damage. It's just, when you had the trash cans, they can pass off the 4-up invuln and the 4-up Field of Pains against, it ended up just making it so I was only killing about 2 or 3 models a turn, and with the Orb of Resurrection, he could just resurrect them back every turn. So, for the 310 or so points that I spent to bring this here, this was the wrong target to go into. He honestly probably should have gone to the Silent King and trudged this way up to the center of the board. Mistake on my part, just target priority, using what's most efficient. Let's see, here I believe I was using a Vanguard Invader list. This is a weird kind of fusion. I used 1 squad of 10 Gene Stealers with a Broodlord to scout out to the middle, and then I had 2 squads of 6 Warriors, each with a Tyranid Prime, 2 squads of 3 Zone Throps to give them an invuln, and then I had a Maleceptor here, and then I had 1 and 2 outflanking Neurolictors. I brought another Norn Assimilator this time, claiming this as my singular purpose target as it had the best terrain. I was able to have these Necron Warriors sweep this way, they took this objective, and eventually get to here. But at that point, I think it was turn 5, it was too little too late. I had taken this objective, I had planted myself, and I'd use essentially the rest of my army to go in, get into the fray, and stymie any of the big stuff that would have been a problem to come over and shoot the Norn Assimilator. So I believe I ended up winning this game by about 20 to 25. This was one of my more decisive victories against my sparring partner, and I was starting to figure out at this point, I really only need to focus on 3 objectives. 1, of course, your backfield, and then 2, something that you can get rid of units and it's away from the highest OC, and of course, your 3rd objective. So here, this essentially means that on turn 5, you're going to score 15 primary, and they, assuming they hold these 2, are only going to score 10. So assuming you can hold this part of the board, which doesn't feel like a large footprint, this is a 5-point swing. I do believe I use gargoyles to either screen out this edge to stymie the movement of the warriors coming up this way. So focus on your primaries that you can win. because this is a perfect staging area to pop out and get anything that gets onto the objective, and this is great terrain. I know I threw a lot at you there, and it was kind of a hodgepodge of different lists, as I used Synaptic Nexus, Vanguard, Invader, and Invasion Fleet in some of the lists against Necrons here. The takeaway that I have for playing Necrons is you have to pick and choose the objectives that you want to be yours, essentially the entire game. You have to devote resources to defend them and to fight for them, and if there are units like the Silent King, or if, the Scorpec Destroyers, or rates that are apparently a current take in the meta, you have to have specific units to counter those, either 3 damage weapons to get through the female pains, and the invulns that they have. Excrants and Maleceptors are a dime a dozen. They're great units, they're efficient. Those should be the things that you're using to clear units like that. Whereas when it comes to blocks of warriors, if you don't have enough shots and you don't have the weight of fire or the dice to take them out, it's better to stymie their movement, move block them either with gargoyles, spore mines. You can even do it with smaller units that are fast. You can do it with Hormigons or Termagants with their reactive move, something to kind of get in their way. Use a throwaway unit to stop them from using potentially 40 OC in a block of 20 of them to get onto a point, and you're probably never taking it back. If there's something that you specifically have a question about, go ahead and leave a comment in the link below, or you can catch me on the Tyranid Discord. If you've made it this far into the video, I want to thank you again for your support. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a like, and if you like the content, I'll be doing a lot more of these in the future. So I hope you learned something today, and I'll catch you next time on Hive Prometheus.